What's up, guys? Paulie Malignaggi for Paulie TV. Vasyl Lomachenko stops George Kambsos in the 11th round, and he's on to bigger and better things in the lightweight division. For his last search, his last run, really, for the undisputed title. Still going to be a tough path. It's a different Lomachenko. I felt that George Kambsos started the fight pretty decently. Obviously, I don't think Lomachenko was ever at risk of losing the fight, or at risk of the fight being that competitive. But early on, George was kind of tit for tat. He was doing a couple of things technically that you could see this new Russian trainer he hired had maybe implemented, sort of like that measuring with that lead hand, so to speak. Even when he was going backwards, he'd extend that lead hand, kind of to protect himself against the southpaw attack. I felt like he came in with a mentality to at least box more intelligently than he has, and probably ever since I've seen him. But I think once Lomachenko started landing shots, George just came undone and started going back to the things that he usually does, the mistakes he usually starts to make, crossing his feet, jumping in with weird shots and whatever. Some of the same mistakes he was even making in the Maxie Hughes fight, where he kind of crossed his feet over and tried to throw that little right hook on the in. The thing with George is once you kind of befuddle him, he runs out of ideas. There's not really an ability to make an adjustment with him. And it showed again last night. Once Lomachenko took advantage of the fight, started closing the gap more and more. You could see Lomachenko always mentally pressures very well. You see, he kind of cuts off the ring, puts you in tough spots, puts you in tough situations. But then little by little, as Lomachenko started increasing the pressure, increasing the pace, George was running more and more out of ideas, and the attack started to become more and more consistent. George would occasionally land the body shot. I felt like that was a big part of the plan. Respond with any of Lomachenko's attacks in kind with body shots. Anytime Lomachenko got close early on, George attacked the body right away. It was on automatic, almost like he was on automatic pilot. And I didn't think that was a bad idea, because Lomachenko is physically small, and sometimes the body shots from the natural lightweights could have more of an effect on him. Who knows? But so I didn't think it was a bad idea. But he never built on top of that. He never really created a lot himself. And of course, Lomachenko, being on the level that he's on, eventually created and built up on top of it more and more, and got the eventual stoppage. Nothing was really a surprise. George will always be a tough guy, and probably overachieved a little bit in his career. That Teofimo Lopez win, he was able to make a lot out of that, and turn that around into other very nice paydays for him. So hopefully he's good. I know he got offended when I said he should probably retire. That wasn't me throwing shade at him. I just prefer to see guys who have done well for themselves financially to get out of boxing before when it's the right time. And I felt like that was the right time for George. Hopefully now it may be the right time, but again, it's not up to me. It's more so up to him. As for Lomachenko, a good win, an impressive win, but nothing that wasn't expected. Actually, the stoppage could have also been one of those plus money bets that wouldn't have been crazy to bet. And he ends up getting that win. And at lightweight, he hasn't had a stoppage in a while, so it was also sort of a statement for him. But at the same time, it's also against a guy who's some levels below what he's been fighting since he got to the lightweight division. I struggle to think that George Kambsos would have even beat Luke Campbell. It's just on the night he fought Teofimo Lopez, he got the win, and nobody can take that away from him. It was a great win. But the more you look at Kambosos since Lopez, and even after Lopez, and maybe even before Lopez, if you really analyze his fights, even then, he wasn't of that level. But that win did very well for him. He'll always be one of the tougher guys you meet, and the crazy thing is, he could probably do bare knuckle. I tell you that. I think George might. George is crazy enough, and probably is a tough enough guy to do bare knuckle fights. I think where there's less technique in that sport, less technical guys in that sport, he might actually even do well in that sport. But again, it's up to him. If he's done well, maybe he's better off retiring. But again, it's not up to me. It's more so up to him. Lomachenko will probably wind up in the Stevenson fight, I think. There's no two ways about it, no ways around it. The best guys have constantly avoided Stevenson, kind of like they were avoiding Lomachenko when he was in his prime. I found it interesting last night that all of a sudden Gervonta Davis was tweeting that he'll get Lomachenko after Frank Martin. Davis didn't even acknowledge anything regarding Lomachenko when Lomachenko was in his better times, and Davis's name would be brought up both at 130 and 135 pounds. I mean, he made sure not to even acknowledge it. Just, God forbid, any momentum would be built up for that conversation of that fight at that time, where he didn't want it at all. But now everybody sees Lomachenko slipping and sliding a little bit. He's 36 years old, and now all of a sudden everybody wants a piece of him. I feel like Shakur is the only guy that always wants the smoke against all the guys no matter what. And Shakur, I think, will get it this time against Lomachenko. He'll be able to get that fight, and I think that'll be the big name that he'll probably be able to overcome. And, that he'll need to sort of push himself a little bit more, push his name a little bit more into the upper echelon. I feel like Shakur is the modern day Lomachenko in that nobody wants to deal with him. Nobody wants to fight him. Everybody makes all kinds of excuses about why they shouldn't fight him, and so on and so forth. I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. Like, boxing is the only sport where entertainment value, which I do rate, takes precedent over actually winning. When we watch soccer / football, we watch hockey, we watch basketball, great defensive teams win championships, and then we don't say, but that's a more boring team. I wanted a more open game, a more open style of team to win the game. No, you just watch it anyway, right? You don't boycott certain teams because they win and they play defensively, do you? Because you'll enjoy the sport. Well, I think boxing should be the same way. So I think Shakur will get Lomachenko. And I see him. I see that's probably where the run of Lomachenko ends. He's a little bit older, but certainly another terrific performance by Lomachenko last night. I think he's going to go down. It's probably one of the guys that's underappreciated. He could have wasted everybody's time by getting 20 straight wins in his career against mid-level opponents before fighting for a title shot. I know I've seen some grumblings about he's only 8-17 or 18-3. Well, that's because the guy came out fighting at world class level right away. And he didn't take on those 10-15 guys that usually get as freebies at the beginning of his career. Otherwise, he'd be 35-3, right, or somewhere around there. When I hear that, when I see things like that, I lose faith in the intelligence of boxing fans. But I think for the most part, I think boxing fans get it. Lomachenko's 18-3 because he started fighting at world class level from the go. And when you start fighting at world class level, you're more susceptible to getting beat. I think this guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think guys also avoided him in his best years in his prime as well, although he did clean out the 126-pound and 130-pound divisions. I thought he beat Haney. I thought Haney actually, now looking back, benefits from beating maybe the weakest undisputed champion and one of the weaker champions we've ever had in boxing, which is Kambosos. And Haney was fortunate that Lomachenko pulled out of the original fight he had with Kambosos when the war started in between Russia and Ukraine, so that Haney could step in and get that shot. Nonetheless, that's not throwing shade on Haney. I actually have taken his side in the Ryan Garcia situation because I think that's unfair to him what happened over there with those drug testing issues. But that's for another video and another time. Vasyl Lomachenko gets this win, looks good doing it. What does everybody think? Do you guys really think that he can unify the titles? Can he beat Stevenson? I know I'm seeing some comments in my other videos saying he can beat Stevenson. I don't really think he can beat Stevenson. I think, every man has his time and day. And I think when you get a little older, Stevenson is also an ascending guy. I know Stevenson doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. I think Stevenson should get more love, in my opinion, because I think he's the best of the bunch at those weights. But I also think that, if they make the matchup, it's sort of the changing of the guard fight where Stevenson beats Lomachenko and then moves on to bigger and better things. But I still don't see guys fighting Stevenson. You see, just like Davis wouldn't mention Lomachenko's name at the time where Lomachenko was really a threat in his prime. Now he's not mentioning really Stevenson's name either. Because now it's really Stevenson is the guy you're supposed to be talking about, right? But instead, he's talking about, all of a sudden he answers a tweet about Lomachenko last night. That was, I don't know. I didn't find that to be to being that interesting at all. But I think Lomachenko has always been a go-getter. He's always taken on the toughest fights, which is rare. He's always gone after the toughest guys right away. The toughest possible opponents he can get right away. and he's never really avoided anybody. And the Haney fight that the Haneys had claimed he avoided, he wasn't really avoiding. He was just trying to fight the Teofimo Lopez at that time, who was a bigger name and had the IBF title. That wasn't really an avoidance of Haney. And the Haneys also knew he wasn't going to take that fight because they knew he was chasing the IBF title and Lopez and the bigger money and the unifier there. So that was sort of a little shade played by the Haneys in that situation as well. But Lomachenko's never ducked anybody really, and he's taking on the toughest fights. And I think he's been a little bit underappreciated, you know. But we'll see how he proceeds moving forward. I would find it more tough for him now to unify the lightweight title than it was before. I thought before he deserved it, and he got robbed in the Haney fight. But I cannot see anybody beating Shakur Stevenson in lightweight. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think Shakur beats Lomachenko? Do you think Lomachenko still has enough left to beat a guy like Shakur Stevenson, or to even unify titles against the other lightweights? The lightweight division is interesting right now because you got Davis at WBA champion, you got Stevenson at WBC champion, now you got Kambosos as the IBF champion. The WBO champion is, you know, not like I'm forgetting who it is, if there is a WBO champion or if it's still vacant. But either way, the lightweight division is shaping up into some pretty good names. Let's see if they fight each other. Because again, Lomachenko has always been willing to fight the guys. I'm sure he'll fight some of these guys, but are they all going to fight each other after that? Let's see if Davis, and also we got Davis and Frank Martin, which is a good fight. We don't want to overlook Frank Martin.